If you keep losing small social battles, your biology remembers. Not consciously, not dramatically, but your nervous system logs every microstatus interaction. The joke you didn't defend, the opinion you softened, the point you knew was right, but didn't push. And here's the part most optimizers miss. Testosterone doesn't just respond to the gym. It responds to perceived rank. Not dominance theatrics, not aggression, perceived competence within a social hierarchy. When you win a small argument, even a trivial one, you trigger what researchers call a winner effect. It has been observed in animals for decades. In humans, it is more subtle. It runs through cortisol, dopamine baseline shifts, sympathetic versus parasympathetic tone, and how your brain interprets social threat. Testosterone is not a hack target. It is a feedback signal. It reflects how your nervous system assesses your position. If your body senses upward movement in status, even temporarily, it can increase serum testosterone. If it senses defeat, repeated submission, or chronic social stress, cortisol rises. And cortisol and testosterone compete for influence in the body. Here is the contrarian angle. It is not the argument itself. It is whether your nervous system registers it as a win. And that changes everything. Let's break the mechanism down clearly. When you engage in a social debate, your sympathetic nervous system activates, heart rate increases, cortisol rises slightly, attention sharpens. This is adaptive stress. If you win, meaning you articulate clearly, receive acknowledgement, or feel internally congruent, dopamine increases. Your dopamine baseline does not permanently spike, but it temporarily elevates, reinforcing assertive behavior. Lower perceived threat, higher perceived agency, cortisol drops back down faster. In several studies, testosterone rises after competitive success compared to baseline. Correlation is not causation, but the pattern is consistent. Perceived success within hierarchy contexts can shift endocrine markers. Here is the proprietary framework. Status signal conditioning. Your biology constantly scans for three signals: competence, autonomy, recognition. If an interaction confirms these, your nervous system shifts toward parasympathetic recovery faster. Vagal tone improves, recovery improves. Sleep architecture that night can improve because your body is not replaying unresolved social threat. If an interaction violates these signals, you feel dismissed, overpowered, or self-betraying. Cortisol lingers. Inflammation can rise subtly. Insulin sensitivity can worsen under chronic stress load. Your circadian rhythm can fragment if rumination keeps you wired at night. Small arguments are not about ego. They are about signal encoding. Here is the clippable truth. If you constantly self-silence to keep peace, your nervous system interprets that as low-rank exposure. Over time, that matters. Now the conflict. Some men hear this and think, so I should argue more. No, there is a failure point. If you chase victory emotionally, raised voice, reactive tone, identity threat, your sympathetic tone stays high, cortisol remains elevated, testosterone may not rise at all. Chronic hostility correlates with worse metabolic health and impaired recovery. The win must feel internally regulated. Here is a mini scenario. If you wake wired but tired after a social event where you argued aggressively, that is not dominance. That is nervous system dysregulation. Cortisol stayed elevated into the evening, disrupting sleep architecture, particularly deep sleep, which is critical for testosterone production. Most testosterone release occurs during sleep, tightly linked to circadian rhythm and REM cycles. Here is the decision tree. If the debate leaves you calm, grounded, and clear, it likely reinforced competence without overactivating stress. If it leaves you replaying the interaction at 1 in the morning, your system encoded threat, not victory. That is the truth most optimizers miss. The real lever is not arguing. It is nervous system regulation during assertion. This is where sympathetic versus parasympathetic balance matters. High vagal tone allows you to assert without destabilizing. You can disagree without perceiving annihilation risk. That is biologically powerful. So how do you use this strategically without becoming insufferable? Morning. Anchor competence early. Complete one cognitively demanding task before major social exposure. This stabilizes your dopamine baseline and reduces reactive defensiveness. Midday social rule: speak once clearly instead of 5 times emotionally. Precision beats volume. Your body registers controlled articulation as competence. Pre-training window: avoid heated debates within 60 minutes before lifting. Acute cortisol spikes can blunt performance if they tip into agitation rather than focused arousal. Evening rule: no unresolved social loops after 9 p.m. If something feels off, journal a structured summary. What happened? What did I assert? What did I avoid? This prevents rumination from fragmenting sleep architecture. Here is the deeper complication. True hierarchy effects are not about defeating others. They are about self-alignment. If you argue a weak point just to win, your nervous system knows. There is no dopamine reinforcement because competence was not authentic. Testosterone reflects congruence. When your internal model of yourself aligns with your external behavior, stress resolves quickly. Recovery improves, inflammation burden lowers over time. Metabolic health benefits from reduced chronic cortisol exposure. This compounds. Repeated small regulated wins condition your nervous system to expect upward mobility. That expectation can alter baseline confidence, posture, and vocal tone, which feed back into social perception. Feedback loops. Biology is listening. But here is the ultimate payoff. The goal is not to dominate trivial debates. The goal is to stop rehearsing submission. Every time you withhold a true, calm assertion, your nervous system encodes constraint. Constraint, repeated often enough, becomes identity. When you practice regulated assertion, you train faster cortisol recovery, higher vagal tone, a more stable dopamine baseline, better sleep architecture, healthier circadian rhythm alignment, and stronger recovery capacity. Testosterone rises when the system is coherent, not chaotic. So the next time a small argument appears, do not ask, "How do I win?" Ask, "Can I assert without losing regulation?" That is the real hierarchy shift, and once your biology learns that pattern, it stops waiting for permission to rise.